Welcome to Wawas on Wire. Today, we're talking about the significant internal power struggle unfolding within Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia. And what we seem to be witnessing isn't just, typical political squabbling. It's a massive, highly organized challenge. Really seems aimed directly at the party president, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. This feels like a crucial moment because it's such a direct challenge, right? Coming from within his own parliamentary ranks. And the organization behind it suggests it's pretty calculated, not just individuals airing grievances.
That's exactly right. That's the key distinction here. It's definitely not just background grumbling. I mean, the gravity, you can sort of see it in the number. 60 members of parliament from Bersatu, they formally decided to express really deep dissatisfaction with the leadership. They actually put their names to a signed letter. That makes it an undeniable statement that the whole direction, the current structure of the party, it's all under intense, coordinated scrutiny, and by a majority of its own MPs.
Right. Let's maybe get into the mechanics of how this all played out, because the logistics alone, coordinating 16 MPs to sign something and hand deliver it, that says a lot about their commitment. We know the process kicked off around October 23rd. That's when these 16 Bersatu MPs formalized their concerns in that letter to the party president.
And what's particularly telling is who actually delivered it. This wasn't slipped under a door or anything anonymous. Datuk Seri Saifuddin Abdullah, the MP for Indera Makota, he personally confirmed he was acting as the representative for the group. He actually walked into Parliament, handed that letter directly to Muhyiddin Yassin. That was October 27th. So this kind of public coordinated confrontation, it just removes any doubt, doesn't it? It signals this group really had the intent, maybe the political courage to look the leader in the eye and, well, deliver their complaints.
Yeah, that takes some doing. And when you have, nearly two-thirds of your parliamentary caucus uniting like this, their directive must have been pretty clear-cut. What was the absolute core demand they made of the party president in that letter?
Well, their demand was very clear and pretty urgent. The 16 members urged Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin to immediately address what they called critical internal issues within the party structure. But, that call for immediate action, it almost feels secondary to the political warning they attach to it. Yeah. And that warning is arguably the most powerful, maybe the most damaging part of this whole thing.
Okay, this is where we should probably focus then. What was that central accusation? Because just saying address internal issues is a bit vague, right?
Yeah.
But a specific political warning, that's what's likely to stick.
They expressed really profound and serious concern that under the current leadership's path, the party risks becoming, and this is the quote, a sacrifice for individual leaders' private interests. Just think about that phrase for a second. I mean, it's quite a damning indictment, isn't it? It suggests, well, a collapse of democratic process inside the party. It implies decisions aren't being made for the party's health or for the constituents, but maybe to push personal agendas or power or perhaps even other interests of certain leaders.
Wow. Okay, that specific accusation, sacrificing the party for private interests, it does raise immediate questions about governance, accountability, all of that. But these kinds of movements, they're usually triggered by something specific, something public. Were there particular disciplinary actions by the leadership that acted as the sort of final straw for these 16 MPs?
Yes, they were actually very specific about that in the letter. The dissent seems to have been really fueled by recent disciplinary actions against some of their colleagues. They explicitly pointed to the decision to expel the Tasek Gelagor member of parliament, and also the separate but equally punitive decision to suspend the Machang member of parliament. So these actions, they probably signaled to those 16 MPs that any internal dissent would be met pretty swiftly, maybe heavy-handedly, and that likely just sped up their decision to make a formal stand.
Right. So if the leadership saw these as necessary actions, to maintain party discipline, how did the dissenting MPs see them? Was it necessary correction, or did they view it as an abuse of power?
Oh, they unequivocally saw them as unwise decisions. That was the term they used. They argued these moves severely damaged the party's public image and, crucially, undermined the political momentum they were hoping to build. So the MPs are essentially saying that using the party's disciplinary system like a weapon against internal challengers, well, it's just counterproductive. Instead of strengthening Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, they argue it's causing massive internal problems and making the party look, frankly, chaotic and fractured to everyone else, including their allies in Perikatan Nasional.
Let's just put this into perspective for you listening, just by looking at the numbers game, because this is what makes the situation so, precarious for the president. Bersatu has, 25 members of parliament total in the Dewan Rakyat? If 16 of them are formally dissenting like this, I mean, that's an overwhelming majority of the parliamentary caucus, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It creates a situation of, profound political weakness right at the center. When almost two-thirds of your MPs publicly signal they've lost faith in your direction, you really lose the ability to effectively command votes or build consensus or even just control the narrative within your own coalition. This isn't some small splinter group we're talking about. It's the bulk of the party's legislative power-voicing opposition. It suggests that any internal party vote, or maybe more critically, any attempt to discipline or expel this group now, well, that could be seen as an immediate collapse of the party structure itself.
Okay, so if 16 MPs sign this letter, who exactly is left standing firmly with Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, especially within Parliament? It sounds like he might be quite isolated except for maybe his inner circle.
Yeah, the loyalty that remains seems concentrated almost entirely at the very top executive level. The group who did not sign the letter includes Muhyiddin Yassin himself, naturally, his deputy president, Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin, and the three vice presidents, that's Modradzi, Ronald Kiandi, and Ali Bijou. Beyond that, there are only two other non-leadership MPs who apparently stood with the president. So it shows that while the core executive leadership is, intact, the president seems to have fundamentally lost the confidence of the rank-and-file MPs, the ones actually doing the legislative work. And that really handicaps his ability to push any controversial agenda or even maintain unity in Parliament.
And this kind of internal fragmentation has immediate serious implications for the wider political scene, doesn't it? I mean, you have a political opposition that's always trying to prove its stability, its viability to the country. When its core party, Bersatu, suffers this level of internal rebellion, what message does that send to the governing coalition and maybe more importantly to the voters?
It sends a message of, fundamental fragility. The governing coalition, knowing Bersatu is internally divided, they'll see an opportunity there, maybe try to exploit those cracks, perhaps peel off individual MPs, or just undermine the Perikatan National Coalition's strength in Parliament. And for the voters, it kind of reinforces that narrative that the opposition is disorganized, maybe more focused on internal power struggles, those private interests they mentioned, than on being an effective check on the government. This internal weakness, it really damages their credibility on the national stage. Severely.
And we can actually get a sense of just how high the tension was by looking at that moment of confrontation. What was the immediate reaction when the letter was physically handed over?
The reaction was apparently immediate. When Datuk Seri Saifuddin Abdullah handed the letter over in Parliament, reports say Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin read it right there on the spot. He gave an immediate, or maybe initial response directly to Saifuddin, which shows, I think, that the issue was just too serious to be put off or passed to a committee. It needed his immediate personal attention.
Okay, so after that, quite a tense exchange, presumably. Saifuddin Abdullah, acting for the group, then had to manage the expectations of 15 other MPs who must have been pretty worked up. What did he do next?
Right. He immediately relayed the president's response back to the other 15 signatories. And crucially, he advised the whole group not to take any further immediate action. He sort of strategically clarified that the letter was meant purely as a statement of formal concern, of dissatisfaction designed to force the president's hand, really, not as a formal appeal that needed some specific procedural response, which could have been maybe easily dismissed.
That sounds like quite smart strategic maneuvering, actually. But why the need to explicitly tell them to hold back, not escalate? Doesn't handing over the letter feel like the peak moment itself?
Well, the need to de-escalate, I think it reveals just how volatile the situation must have been internally. The fact that 16 MPs needed to be specifically advised against taking further action suggests there was probably an immediate temptation among some of them, maybe to follow up with resignations or a formal leadership challenge, or even public statements that could have caused an outright split right then and there. So Saifuddin's advice, it essentially put a temporary lid on that boiling pot, didn't it? It forced a pause, a moment for internal negotiation rather than an immediate, possibly destructive break.
So as we watch this situation develop, the internal pressure on Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin is clearly immense. The core question now, for the coming weeks and months, is whether these deep-seated internal issues the 16 MPs brought up, especially those accusations about prioritizing private interests over the party's health, can actually be resolved internally, through negotiation, maybe genuine reform, or is this public dissent just the start? The beginning of a much broader fragmentation that could permanently reshape the opposition landscape in Malaysian politics.
It really forces us to ask, doesn't it? Is this the point where the party fractures under the weight of its own internal contradictions? Or can the collective will of these 16 MPs actually force a pivot? A move away from that personalized leadership style back towards something more like party-wide consensus? That decision, however it goes, will surely define Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia's future.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.